We want to welcome to the stage the SJH Choir as they sing the national anthem.
That calmed my nerves. It's really cooked up. I think we're good.
Okay.
Quiet them now.
Okay, welcome students to our Veterans Day Assembly. Today we have the honor and privilege of having several of our community's veterans and their families joining us today as we celebrate and honor our servicemen and women who have served or are currently serving in the U.S. military. Will you please welcome them and show your appreciation with a round of applause?
We would like to issue a reminder to all attending this assembly to please remember what it means to be a Bronco, which includes behaving with respect and being courteous during assemblies. Please have your phones turned off, clap when prompted, and please no talking. Please show respect for our veterans and for our school and for yourself. Thank you, and with that being said, we would like to start the assembly by viewing a video that explains why we celebrate Veterans Day.
Raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your name. Do solemnly swear. support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic, and to bear true faith and allegiance to the same. That I will obey the orders of the President of the United States and the orders of those officers appointed over me according to regulations and the Uniform Code of Military Justice. So help me God.
We celebrate Veterans Day on the anniversary of the armistice that ended World War I. The armistice that began on the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month. The timing of this holiday is quite deliberate in terms of historical fact. But somehow it always seems quite fitting to me that this day comes deep in autumn when the colors are muted and the days seem to invite contemplation. It is, in a way, an odd thing to honor those who died in defense of our country, in defense of us, in wars far away. The imagination plays a trick. We see these soldiers in our mind as old and wise, but most of them were boys when they died, and they gave up two lives, the one they were living and the one they would have lived. When they died, they gave up their chance to be husbands and fathers and grandfathers. They gave up their chance to be revered old men. They gave up everything for our country, for us. And all we can do is remember. I will not fail thee, nor forsake thee. In memory of those who gave the last full measure of devotion, may our efforts to achieve lasting peace gain strength. Let us make a vow to our dead. Let us show them by our actions that we understand what they died for. Strengthened by their courage, heartened by their value, and born by their memory, let us continue to stand for the ideals for which they lived and died.
In the long history of the world, only a few generations have been granted the role of defending freedom in its hour of maximum danger. I do not shrink from this responsibility. I welcome it. I do not believe that any of us would exchange places with any other people or any other generation. The energy, the faith, the devotion which we bring to this endeavor will light our country and all who serve it. We shall pay any price, bear any burden, meet any hardship, support any friend, oppose any foe to assure the survival and the success of liberty.
Okay, we would now like to invite our veterans to the front, just right here, so they can introduce themselves. And the SJH band will also be playing the melody of the branches of the military. Veterans, if you would rise during your song. They will be telling us who they are, which branch of the military they served in or are serving in, and which conflict they served in. So if you guys could please come up, just right up here to the front. Just right up here. We're already.
Okay, I'm Richard Kerr. I served United States Navy during Desert Shield, Desert Storm, and I was also Army National Guard.
Danny Murdoch, Utah National Guard, Operation Enduring Freedom, Afghanistan.
Troy Lopez from Monticello, the Utah National Guard, Operation Iraqi Freedom.
Rodney Wesley from Denver, Navy, Desert Storm.
U.S. Army, served in Vietnam, served 10 years in the Pentagon, 10 years in Europe, and you'll hear from me later.
Jesse Barton, Utah Army National Guard, Operation Enduring Freedom, Afghanistan.
Shea Clay Benali and Shea Montezuma Great Nasha, Kade Cortez, Colorado, Deshagan. I served in Vietnam with the 173rd Airborne in 69-70.
Ivan Carr, I did National Guard, Army, Desert Storm, Enduring Freedom, Afghanistan.
Chas Jacobson, United States Air Force, Operation Enduring Freedom.
Brett Carden, U.S. Army, U.S. Air Force, multiple Operation Desert Storm, Iraqi Freedom, Bosnia.
George Jones, U.S. Army, served in Germany during the Vietnam conflict, 1964 to 66.
Robert Bowering, U.S. Army, 68 through 71.
Orlo Knight, United States Army from 1964 to 1970.
Tony Wojak, United States Air Force, B-52 Crew Chief, Operation Arclight, Vietnam from 66 to 70.
Troy Purcell in Vietnam. I was in the Army, so in 69 and 70.
World Series.
Mont Perkins served in the Cortez Army National Guard as a medic in the Vietnam conflict.
Niall Bennett, Vietnam era, 72 to 75.
Billy Mendoza served in Operation Enduring Freedom and Operation Iraqi Freedom. I also have a brother that served in Afghanistan, Abel Mendoza, and father-in-law, who is not here today. He served in the Vietnam War era.
Casey Singer, I did Iraq 2007, 2008, and Afghanistan 2010, 2011.
D Street, I served Utah National Guard and Desert Storm.
Bruce Lyman, Utah National Guard and Army, Desert Storm.
Preston Palmer, Utah Army National Guard, Desert Storm.
Jim Harris, United States Army, Vietnam, 68 and 69.
Andrew Mikesell, U.S. Army, served in Vietnam, 1969 through 1971.
Derek Jones, Utah Army National Guard, Operation Enduring Freedom, Afghanistan.
Travis Walcott, United States Coast Guard, 2004 through 2008.
Steve Jensen, 21 years in the Air Force, served during the Vietnam era and Desert Storm time.
Michelle Christensen, U.S. Army, and Operation Freedom, Iraqi Freedom.
Yate, my name is James Sampson, two-time Vietnam veteran, United States Army.
My wife served in the United States Air Force. She couldn't be here today because of she's got battling a little cancer. But anyway, she served from 67 to 69. Just want to acknowledge her.
Okay, can we give a big round of applause once again? Thank you, veterans. You can go and sit down now. Okay, good job to our band. Here at San Juan, we are grateful for the freedoms that we have here in America. We want to remind students of the writing and art competitions that are going on this week. You can complete the contest by submitting an essay of 500 words, a poem, 5 to 6 stanzas, a photograph, or a work of art. The theme is why or how do we honor our veterans? These entries can be submitted by emailing Mr. Grover.
Here in San Juan County, we have some great history and culture. Some of our heritage language students have created a presentation to highlight a group of our veterans, the Navajo Talkers. We would now like to turn the time over to Miss Cody to introduce one of our guest speakers, or after this video.
Yate and association look at an ensign, glass versus chin, Pelagana dashache, Kisachini dashanella.
Yate she Elmarin Bigay in a ship, Pitani in the Schleen, Nake Bashashin, glass dashache, Nake dashanella.
Oh, we're going to be talking about the Navajo Talkers.
In September 1942, the Marine Corps recruited 191 Diné people to fight in World War II. Philip Johnston had an idea to use the Diné people and their language to send messages through a radio. The codes used throughout the World War II and were successful. Over 800 messages were sent, all without error. And the next slide is just a video that we wanted to show.
Battleship, Klotso. Klotso in Navajo means big fish. And submarine, Beshlot, iron fish. Aircraft carrier, Chitine, yeah, one that carry birds. That would be code word for aircraft carrier. So all those written down, memorized. After they completely memorized, then they were given a final test. That's how these codes were developed. They were told, this first 29 that went in early 1942, that whatever code words they developed, another Navajo, not in their top secret classroom, should know what in the world those code words represent. So, meaning that only those in their top secret code school classroom will know what these code word, Navajo code words represent. Like hand grenade, for instance. We never seen them before. So the code word for hand grenade was no masi. No masi in Navajo means potato. Hand grenade looks like a potato. Again, only those of us who went through that code school know when we hear the code word coming through the air say no masi, we write down hand grenade. But another Navajo out here, hear us say no masi, they think we're talking about French fries or something like that. So they don't know. Only we know what those code words represent. Like the letter A. Code word for the letter A is Belasana. Belasana in Navajo means apple, something you eat. So again, out in the field, when the code word comes through, it says Belasana, we write down the letter A. A Navajo, Hira Sepa Lasana, who had not been through that code school, will think that we're talking about something you eat apple. So they don't know, only we know. That's the way the code was developed.
World War II, Kotaku's program was declassified in 1968, and the national recognition of Kotaku was slow. While there was some recognition in 1970s and 1980s, it wasn't until 2001 that congressional gold medals were given to the Navajos and other Kotakus. Up until this current day, the Dene language is still known as the Unbreakable Code. We want to appreciate all veterans today and show respect for their courage and bravery to serve our country. Thank you.
Yate Bene. I just want to say this is our new royalty, Inez Sosi and Elmira Bigay. They've got at that part of their presentation. Yate Bene. I just want to introduce an introduction here. This young man I'm introducing today was born in Montezuma Creek, Utah, about 4 miles north. He attended numerous BIA schools and graduated from San Juan High School as the first Navajo graduate in 1964. He has a Bachelor's of Arts degree from Fort Lewis College in Durango, Colorado. In 1968, about 3 weeks before his graduation from Fort Lewis College, he received a military draft notice in early October of 1938. He flew with other draftees and enlistees to Oakland and then traveled by bus to basic training in Fort Ord, California. His advanced training was at Fort Ben, Harrison, Indiana, and jungle training at Fort Riley, Kansas. In May of 1969, he arrived in Vietnam at Bien Hoa Air Base, which is just outside of Saigon. From there, he flew from Cam Ranh Bay, then to Cape Non. He conveyed to NK into the Central Highlands. Onto the first night at NK, he experienced his first attack with RPGs. Next day, he convoyed to Phu Thai Base, where the 173rd Airborne Brigade was headquartered. He finished his tour there. After military service, he did a number of things. Just to name only a few of his many accomplishments, he was involved in some of the construction of homes in Montezuma Creek and Anath area. He was involved at the establishment of College of Eastern Utah in Blanding. He helped in planning and designing Whitehorse High School. And later, he helped establish the Cortez Culture Center in Cortez, Colorado. He pushed and started the resident electrification in the greater Anath oil field, and he was also instrumental in extending water lines to homes in the same area. His recognition of his service and accomplishment, he was awarded an honorary degree in 1983 from College of Eastern Utah and Utah State University. Having been employed in the oil and gas industry for 20 years and was a park ranger helping to train other rangers at Mesa Verde National Park, he is of the Folding Arms clan, born to the Red Bottom clan. His maternal grandparents are Bitterwater, and his paternal parents Red Running into Water. Ladies and gentlemen, Shiaj, my uncle, Mr. or Dr. Clyde Benally.
Thank you, Velina. On my honor, I will do my best to do my duty to God and country to help. Oh, that's the wrong talk. It's something that you remember when you've been the scoutmaster for over 30 years. Comes naturally. I do solemnly swear that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic, that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same, and that I will obey the orders of the President of the United States and the orders of the officers appointed over me, according to regulations and the Code of Military Justice, so help me God. That was an oath that I took in Salt Lake City. And so, in a way, although I was drafted, I did not run. I decided to serve, which I did. And but the preparation was good. I went to high school here, and I remember one teacher, although I remember different ones, but Mr. Jensen had the American Problems class, and we took on the book by Brzezinski, learning about what totalitarian governments were and are. I think he was accused of teaching communism, and he said, no, I'm teaching about them so that students would know about what is spreading around the world. And so that was my introduction. And later when I went to college, there was another book, 1984. It should have been reversed the other way, but the high school text was more challenging than George Orwell's book. And Big Brother's Watching You is one of the things that came out of that. And so my preparation was good in that respect. But the interesting thing is that, what am I talking about? We all talk about freedom as high school students. My freedom, my space. My parents have too many rules. I can't be free. I live in Blanding. There are too many laws, too many regulations. When I go to high school, there are many policies that I can't do anything. My freedoms are being denied. I'm a citizen of the state of Utah. There are rules that cover me. I am a citizen of the United States. And there are laws that cover. I live in a society, and societies has rules, and I have to fit into it. I'm not all that free, but it's freedom just the same. But you know, we are citizens of the world, deny it or not. And that's where the challenge is, the freedoms that we express. The one that comes first is usually freedom of speech, expression, everywhere around the world. Second, freedom of every person to worship God in his own way, everywhere in the world. Third, freedom from want, which translates into world terms, meaning economic understanding, which will secure to every nation a healthy, peacetime life for its inhabitants everywhere around the world. Fourth, freedom from fear, which translates into world terms, means a worldwide reduction of armaments to such a point and in such a thorough fashion that no nation would be in a position to commit an act of physical aggression against any neighbor anywhere in the world. Those are the four freedoms that even to this day our nation tries to strive for. And to protect those freedoms, we take the oath. We swear an oath to protect our freedoms. That's why we have our people in uniform. Salat Sol. You know, I look at my history and I see that. For your information, about 10 years ago, after over 50 years, I was diagnosed with Agent Orange from the defoliant spray that was used in Vietnam. My slogan, a new one, was created. I came back from Vietnam, but death followed me. That's our slogan. I was also diagnosed with post-traumatic stress. Yesterday, I went to a Gore dance in Cortez, Colorado. I wanted to see, I just popped in, sat there. The next thing I knew, something was happening. I began to see visions of a volleyball court. I said, uh-oh. I just got up and left. There's a crowd there. I guess the crowd triggered something in me. As Vietnam veterans that have gone through those type of experiences, we don't like crowds. We go to the mess hall. Our meals are about 5 minutes long. No freedom. We want to have a leisurely time. Play volleyball. All the GIs get together and we yell and stuff and play games. But you know, Charlie sees that and he starts lobbing RPGs, rocket-propelled grenades, to where that is. And so wisdom says, don't play volleyball. Wisdom says, do not sit around in the mess hall and eat leisurely. Folks, we talk about freedom, but we also have to fight for freedom. And we have to protect what little we got. As much as society tells us that our freedom is limited, the high school tells us our freedom is limited, your family tells you that your freedom is limited, and even your friends that you associate with. Sometimes you have to limit. If you're way out there by yourself in the boonies, you can do all the freedom that you want. But you're far beyond that. You need people to associate with. And it dawns on you that you have to protect those freedoms. And if you both agree, then you say, let's protect our freedom. That's my message today, and thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Benali. We thank you for all your words and your service. Our next guest speaker will be introduced by Ms. Sherry Pugh.
It's my privilege today to introduce Natalia Kurkowska. She is my friend, and she's very kind and she's very wise. She was born in the Soviet Union, and she grew up in Ukraine. She grew up under communism. She had very little freedoms, didn't get to choose how she dressed, what she listened to, movies she watched, where she lived. And she went on to college in England, got a degree, and met her husband. They ran their own business for years. But because of the first war that was in Ukraine, they were forced to move to France. They lived there for 5 years, and then they went back to Ukraine for 2 years. Again, another war broke out, and they were forced to leave almost overnight with just what they could fit in their car. They fled and they went to Poland for a month, then they were in Germany for 2 weeks, France for a few days, and then to Canada before they were able to make their way to the United States. She will be one of the first ones to tell you about how lucky we are to have the freedoms that we have in America, and we're so grateful that we get to hear from her today. Introducing Natalia.
Most of you know me as your Gear Up advisor, right? Yeah, and today I'm not going to talk about your academic performance, things like that. I'm going to talk about human rights and what they can be without freedom. So there are three main rights that people can have and should have. The right to live and liberty, the right to work, and right to the education. In the Soviet Union, people were born, received an education, and were obligated to work where the state told them to. No one could move to live in other place without special permission from the authorities. No one could listen to foreign music or choose a doctor. Everyone was obligated to study atheism. Atheism is a science that God does not exist. So people were free until they or their close relatives were recognized as an enemy of people or a traitor to the motherland. After this, people faced prison at best and execution at worst. Moreover, the entire family was punished without trial or investigation. I was born in the Soviet Union. This state does not exist anymore. And what is that freedom that people are ready to fight and ready to give their lives for? Right now, there is a war in our country. This is a terrible war. Russia attacked Ukraine. People who cannot leave the country are ready to die, ready to live without arms and legs, without water and electricity, ready to sleep in cold and wet bomb shelters, to the sounds of sirens with their small children, but are not ready to give up their freedom. Why? Those veterans, my people from my country, are not ready to give up that freedom. What is that freedom about? So now I'm going to share some events that happened in my family's life. My parents were the children of enemy of the people. They kept it in a secret until the Soviet Union was completely destroyed, and I learned the truth about my ancestors when I was a teenager. So being children of the enemy of the people is very hard. You cannot you almost cannot go to college. You have to do some terrible things, not maybe terrible for them, but terrible for me, like learning atheism, saying all the time that God does not exist, things like that. You always would be under somebody's eyes, things like that was not easy. In the Soviet Union, it was easy to become an enemy of people. If you were richer than others, or did not share the state policy, or did not want to give your property to the state, or suddenly talk to a foreigner, all such person was recognized as enemies of the people. And the whole family was punished. Everyone who lived in the same house with this person was recognized as an enemy of the people. Wife, children, parents, brothers and sisters. One day, people with a weapon came to my beloved grandmother, and said that her husband had been recognized as an enemy of the people. She was informed that from now on both she and her son, my future grandfather, they became enemies of the people, and that they have 15 minutes to get ready. They were lucky. They were not shot, they were taken to Siberia. This is in Russia. My other grandmother married to an enemy of the people. Her husband, my other grandfather, was sent to a prison for 10 years for disobedience. For disobedience, he became the enemy of the people. As I said earlier, God was banned in the Soviet Union. Everyone studied atheism. In the city where I lived, there were people who, no matter what, believed in God. Because they believed in God, they and their children were not imprisoned or shot, but this family was allowed to live in our city to show other people what can happen to such people. They were very poor. They couldn't go to college. To feed their family, their children, their family, they collected natural grass and everything they could gather to feed their children. It seemed that there is no work and you can create your own business and at least make some money, right? Unfortunately, it was forbidden to do business in Soviet Union. Now you understand a little about why people are ready to die for freedom. People are ready to give their lives for freedom and they are ready to give their lives for freedom when living is more difficult than dying. In a country where there is no freedom, there is no trust. My understanding of the war in Ukraine and people who are trying to defend the freedom, I understand it that they are not support the war, but protect the freedom and trust which other countries are trying to destroy. My personal story. My husband is not in Ukraine. He is from Belarus. His country still has communism in. In the first days of the war, missiles flew from his country to my country, to Ukraine. His country became an enemy of Ukraine. My husband left his country in 2006 and has been living as a refugee in different countries of the world for more than 17 years. If you ask him what you value most in people, he will firmly answer, I value those people I trust. It sounds almost unreal, but this is exactly what happens in a country where there is no freedom. In a country where a dictator rules, everyone can be accused of being an enemy of the people, and everyone can become a traitor. It's terribly scary. You cannot sleep peacefully. You cannot be sincere. You should always think that someone may bear false witnesses against you in order to gain some privilege or benefits for themselves. Therefore, my family is very grateful to your society that you have built here in the United States, that you accepted us in this nice city. And we are so grateful to all the people in the world who defend, and will defend the freedom and trust in this world. So, thank you so much.
Big thanks to Mrs. Natalia. We now want to turn the time over to Miss Nikki Seifert to introduce our final speaker.
Okay, I'm really happy to present this next person because he's really important to me. He's my father figure. He's my papa bear. So he might look stern, but he's not. But I'm going to show you I'm going to talk to you about him for a second. He was born in Blanding. He graduated from San Juan High. Okay, he graduated from Utah State University and also got his master's degree from University of Utah. He's spent 33 years of active duty in the Army. He also retired, ranked 2-star general in the Army, and then he went ahead and spent 9 more years as a vice president for Northrop Grumman and as a defense contractor. So helped design some things that will help the Army. So he did the one, we have a little statue of the bat, which was a tank defender. But anyway, he came home to Blanding in January 2000. He also spent 8 years as San Juan County Commissioner, and he loves to serve And I always tease him that he never retires, because he always retires and then he goes and helps. And that's one thing that I've noticed about almost all veterans is the love that they have for their country and for their home, and the being able to serve. He loves to be outdoors and especially be on horseback. And so I'm going to turn time over to him so that he can share his experiences and his knowledge.
I'm really not going hunting. I've been wearing this kind of clothing for 33 years, but I'm really very happy to have the opportunity to speak primarily to the students here today. As we've heard and seen and are aware, freedom is not free. During the course of the history of the United States, we've had more than 500,000 Americans killed in combat for serving to protect our freedoms here at home. The initial video we saw was very impressive about what we are fighting for and also what we now enjoy because of where we are. We are fortunate to live in Blanding as far as I'm concerned. We are significantly distant from a lot of the turmoils of the world, and certainly the reputation we have for being patriotic people and law-abiding people is something to be committed to perpetuating. So my discussion today will be more to the students of this great school and what you can do for yourself, for your family, and for your country. My parents, well, I guess I want to jump into this if I can get it to work, right? The 13 states of the initial settlement of the United States fought a war to separate themselves from the oppressions of the mother country of England. And the Declaration of Independence starts out, when in the course of human events, it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve their political bands and have connection with them with another. It goes on to say, we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they're endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Now, as we live here in Blanding and as we attend San Juan High School, these three elements are very much available to all of you. Life we have, liberty we have, at the expense of the thousands of people who have lost their lives in combat to defend the freedoms which we enjoy, and the pursuit of happiness. Each individual pretty much has their own definition of what it takes to be happy, which means to me that it's an individual endeavor as to how we prepare in our schooling, how we get to a point where we are responsible for a family. And so I'm going to talk more about that because what you've heard already is true, and a lot of it would be redundant if I covered the same things again. So I was born here in Blanding, as Nikki said, grew up in San Juan High. 17 years old, I left home to go to Utah State University. There's a significant reason why I went there. My mother graduated from Utah State in 1924. She came to Blanding in a mail wagon to teach school. She died, she was buried here at age 90 after having taught school for 30 years and having raised 6 children. I was the last of 6. I'm very fortunate to still be alive. I'm only 87 years old. I've got time to spare, and I'm very willing to use my experiences for the benefit of those who are available to listen. My father's father was murdered. He and his mother and some of their unmarried children came to Blanding in 1914. My father was number 13 out of a family of 14. He learned by what I call the school of hard knocks in 2 ways. One, his mother was a school teacher. His wife was a school teacher. But the other was, you got 13 other siblings. What does that mean in terms of discipline? Every family is different, I'm sure. But I very much appreciate the things that are available here in Blanding. Some people indicate that if you grow up in a small town, remote from what they claim to be civilization, and go to a small school, it's a disadvantage. I am here to tell you it is not a disadvantage. When I graduated from high school and went to college, I had equal capabilities from this school to compete academically in college. I finished college with a very high grade point average, was commissioned in the Army, and the next day headed for Georgia for the Infantry Center to meet with other second lieutenants from all over. In my basic officer course, there were 29 officers that did not go to West Point. All the others were graduates of the very competent military academy. The foundation that I had here and in Utah State and in Utah as a whole allowed me to compete in every measurable way with these academy graduates. Throughout the course of my career, I had opportunity for leadership responsibilities, and because of the foundation that I received here, I was able to excel. And over the course of my career, I ascended to the rank of Major General. There were only, I've got to keep the memory right now, on the promotion list that I was on from Colonel to General, there were only, I think, 37 officers that were ROTC, or Officer Candidate School commissioned officers. I was the youngest on that promotion list in terms of years of service and in age. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about how you can do whatever you wish to do. It's totally up to you, mentally, physically. It's all about attitude. It's all about commitment. During the years that my mother taught school here, she started off where there were only 6 other teachers. She taught every class except boys phys ed. But she had a motto: be all that you can be. She would say, I don't teach algebra, I don't teach English, I don't teach geometry, I teach students. And by the virtue of what she instilled in the students here and her family, made it such that this school has graduated high school many doctors, many lawyers, many very successful business people, many good farmers, many good cattlemen, because of what was instilled in us from dedicated school teachers, such as the ones you now have. So it's my expectation and my hope that all of you students here will take advantage of the opportunity to become all you can be. Why do we think, or why do we realize that our football team has had 3 years now of undefeated? It's because commitment, hard work, self-sacrifice, and a belief in the value of what it means to win the state championships in football. Same thing in basketball. Same thing in any other aspect of your education. If you take seriously the full capabilities that are in your brain, you will be successful. In my career, both in military and in industry, I felt no competition beyond that which I had foundationed for here in Blanding. When I finished a master's degree in business administration, I went back to the Pentagon, was assigned to the Office of the Secretary of the Army. I was in a little cubbyhole type office with 2 Harvard graduates, 1 Yale graduate, 2 Stanford graduates. These are schools of great reputation, great heritage. I felt no inabilities or disadvantages for having been educated where I was educated by the people that were committed to the improvement of students. So I've got a little visual here I'm going to use. Some of you have heard me use this before, but first of all, I'd like to commend Coach Christensen for this year's football, the last 3 years of football or more. He has instilled in those athletes a commitment and a self-sacrifice. So I have here 4 students. Some of you may be any one of them. What I'm trying to instill in you is it's what's in your head. It's what's the interior of your being that is of value by being a student here in this small school in this small town. So here we go. We got one that would really study hard, worked hard, went to training, did everything required, and had quite a successful life. Here's another, same thing. Here's a third one that has not given up on himself or what he's being taught here at school. Here's one that has been a little bit negligent, not really heavily involved, doing things that weren't for his or her future good. And when out and confronted with any kind of a jolt, that's the result, less than you're capable of. So I pay tribute to my mother, my father, and to my family during the years I was in the Army. I was married to a wonderful woman for 40 years. She went through all of the support aspects of my life to raise a family while I was in the Army. She then passed away, and I've been married to Lynette for 26 years, and she's keeping me alive. With this, I thank her. I give credit to the heritage I have. I give credit to the teachers that are here today to help you form the kind of a life that won't cause you to fall flat when you meet a challenge. Thank you very much.
Thank you to all of those who spoke with us, and a huge thank to all our veterans here with us, and for the ones that we have lost, to help us continue to be free.
As we conclude our assembly, we ask that you stay seated as we allow our veterans and their families to exit first so they can make their way down to the cafeteria to enjoy a breakfast provided by the school. Thanks again and have a great day.